Okay, you're live.
Good morning. Welcome to Sunday morning adult lyceum program here at Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp. For those of you watching online, here in our community, in Florida, nationwide, and perhaps around the world, I welcome you. This ability to go online is a very good thing. We're going to try and keep it for a while. Every Sunday morning, we have adult lyceum program at 9:30, so tune in. As spiritualism, we have no dogma. We don't have anything that says you have to believe something. Also, it's not a question of believing it or something bad's going to happen to you. We don't have that, thank goodness. Nor do we have a set creed like a lot of religions in the world. The closest we get to a creed is something called a Declaration of Principles. Currently, for us, there's 9 of them. Now, I should give a little history of the principles. They're all over our website, all over our literature, certainly in our annual programs. On page 6, you'll find them. They were given to us by our foremothers and forefathers years ago as a guide for living. It says right here, spiritualism has no dogma or creed, just a simple set of 9 principles to help guide our lives. Now is not the time to go into detail as to how each one of these came about at an annual convention. The wording was right. They were voted on over many years. They're a product of the National Spiritualist Association of Churches, the largest organization of spiritualist churches in our country. We no longer are part of that. We're independent. We have adopted those 9 principles. Now, they didn't start out as 9 principles. They started out, perhaps I think it was 5, but over a period of time, they got the wording right behind this void, this principle called infinity. Now, I should mention that we just can't arbitrarily change these principles. It would take a vote of the membership at the annual meeting to change that. In my years here, almost 30 years, I've never seen it changed. I'll get to that in a moment. Now, this infinite intelligence is the term that we have for God. God. So people might ask me, do spiritualists believe in God? They would ask me, do you believe in God? It really depends who's talking to me. I may say, yes, of course, we call it infinite intelligence. Yes, I do. Others might ask me, and I might say, no, I don't know if I believe in God. I might not believe in the same God you believe in. Ours is infinite in intelligence. Now, I talked about changing these principles, and about 20 years ago, there was a move at our annual meeting to add the word God to the first principle. We believe in infinite intelligence / God. And people thought it was a good idea. But someone stood up and said, no, we don't know what God these people are talking about. It might not be the God of the person down the street. Infinite, you can't add to it. So infinite intelligence is actually one of many, 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 shall we say, metaphysical terms. Universal mind, the one, the all that is. Many, many different terms in the literature to express infinite intelligence. Let's go to number 2. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. I just noticed for the first time that expression is capitalized. This infinite intelligence is a principle. It just is. But when it starts to make movement, begins to manifest itself, this is now the beginnings of what people call creation, emanates aspects of itself. It expresses itself into what we call laws or principles, the way things really work. And here it says physical laws. Well, the physicists of the world know very well what we're talking about. They're very well versed in the laws of physicality, law of gravity, law of inertia. It goes on and on. Look at any physics book in the physical material world. But before that, we have spiritual laws. We call this natural law, universal law, cosmic law, the divine plan, the way things really are, the way things really work. Now, this is funny to me. I'll tell you a little personal story. Years ago, I had an older gentleman who used to have me to his house, and I'd give him guidance and maybe a reading, and he'd pick my brain about things. I'd do some teaching with him. And every time I mentioned natural law, he got this look on his face. He didn't know what I was talking about. I said, well, why do you have a problem with that? The problem is that many people defy natural law. If you think of life as a stream or river going down, and you want to get in that river and go somewhere nice, you just flow with the rivers. You the term, go with the flow. Your life will be okay. How many people want to swim upstream? They work hard, they get tired, it's painful. Don't come to me crying. Follow the natural laws. Now, we had a teacher here years ago that spent a lot of time researching, studying, and teaching the natural laws by number. I believe she has something like 276 named natural laws. Probably many more than that, because we just have to, we like to categorize things. But you understand that if you follow them like that, it's hard to go wrong. And so natural law is what I call God in action. The divine plan being played out, of which we are a part of it. We're not separate from it. Number 4. Now, I should say the first 3 lay out some of the philosophy for the religion and the spiritual aspects of spiritualism. Infinite intelligence, natural law, living according to natural law. Now, number 4, we start getting into what makes spiritualism really different and special of all the religions and traditions in the world. We affirm that the existence of personal identity of the individual continue after death. Once the body drops off, our energy, our consciousness, our memory banks and personality continue. You don't need a body for that. These memory banks, this consciousness of the individual continue. Now, many religions teach life after death, but they stop there. We move on to number 5. We affirm the communication with the so-called dead, not the dead, the so-called dead, is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. Now, that's a very important statement there, scientifically proven. Years ago, somebody slowed down. There's a group up in Jacksonville trying to prove scientifically about life after death. I said, again, how many times do we have to prove this? on an individual basis. It's proved here every day in Cassadaga. In message services in front of many people, it's proving. And yet scientists, university researchers, psychic researchers have shown over and over again the reality of this. So communication is what makes us spiritualists, proven through mediumship. So 4 and 5 form the foundation of what makes spiritualism what it is. The proof of life after death and communication with those who have passed on. Now, number 6 is very important. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the Golden Rule. Quote, whatsoever you would do, whatsoever you would that others should do unto you, do ye also unto them. It's kind of a fancy old way of saying it, and we found it in the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 12. That wording is right from the Bible. Now, this is very interesting. If you delve into the Golden Rule, you're going to see that the very same idea, it shows up in so many religions and traditions throughout history, or maybe just the wording is a little different. What else would you expect? But it's a high moral teaching that you don't want to do something to somebody that you don't want them to do to you. That you want to treat them the way you want to be treated. And so there's so many different variations of the Golden Rule that has so many different names, but the principle is the same. Somewhere at home I have a chart that shows all the different religions and traditions and how they word it slightly differently, but the principle is the same. Treat others the way you want to be treated. It says the highest morality. Now, that's not really a part of spiritualism per se, but I believe our mothers and fathers, our forefathers, our foremothers, put this in to really cement the idea of religion and spirituality into spiritualism. It's something that we ought to consider of how we live our lives according to natural law. Now, when I was going to deal with number 7, when I first came here in June of 1991, think about that, 29 years ago. And I went down to the temple, which is now closed for repairs, and I attended my first Sunday service. And we read these principles at the beginning of each service. And when I saw number 7 and we read it aloud as a group, I knew I was home. How can you argue with this? Number 7, we affirm